Once again, we are on the road visiting Chapel Hill and a friend of a friend, Robin Thomas. Robin, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you.
Well, you are a good friend of a good friend of ours. Dr. Susan Lavelle gives us our Monday COVID-19 quarantine update. She is a calming source of great information, and she's been a great friend. And she spoke very highly of you, mentioned that you have a 25 years of medical research studying inflammation in the autoimmune disease. Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah, that's partial of it.
No, I got a little bit. That's
Yeah.
But in 2015, I think maybe 2004, excuse me, you started Living Well Connections, which is a
Yeah, I actually started in 2004. I left the position I had at
please.
UNC. Sorry about that. UNC Research, and I came home and I started I started a wellness business, and that was with USANA Health Sciences.
And
it was later that I started Living Well Connections, 2015.
Okay. So what was the impetus after a 25-year career to start your own entrepreneurship?
Well, that's an interesting story. You know how, what is it? In, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
It was one of those situations. I'm a biologist and I'm married to a chemist, so we're total science nerds here. He actually works locally in RTP. He works at the Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I worked for many years at UNC. We met in college, so we kind of stuck around this area.
Mm-hmm.
But we have two sons, two adult sons. They're in their 30s now, which is amazing. But our younger son was diagnosed, had health issues, and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 18 months old. I continued to work. Everything was fine. With working in a laboratory, I could do flex hours, and I was fine, and all the way through his elementary school. But what happened when he hit middle school, and anybody here who has a middle school age kid, or has been through it, middle school is a tough transition. One of the issues my son had was he had some brain injury early on for the diabetes, and he has short-term memory deficit. And over the years, it also gave him some anxiety. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
And getting hit by middle school, and suddenly, instead of being in a elementary school classroom where you're safe and you've got, your teacher, you're having to negotiate different classrooms. And he actually had a major nervous breakdown, which was tough. I tried they actually asked me to bring him home. I mean, to quit school.
Oh,
so
wow.
Suddenly I identify with the parents now today and with COVID, who are suddenly finding themselves homeschool parents, because that happened to me. I suddenly discovered that, okay, I have a full-time job, and I'm also now a homeschool parent. And not only that, he was very sick. And so I tried to schedule those, going into the lab at 3 a.m. and coming home in the morning, and my husband going to work, and that just didn't work. So we decided that I would quit my job. And then for a while, then I started going a little stir crazy. I said, I have to do something. And also I am so fascinated about health and wellness. So that's when I started my wellness business.
So life threw you a curveball and you adapted using your skills to make the best of it.
Exactly. I adapted to that, and I started with that. And I think being a business owner, or just being a human, you have a series of events that happen that you do have to adapt.
Right. And it's often the mindset, it's the attitude more than your aptitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you actually offer your clients?
Well, it was interesting. One little 20 segue to that is the fact that he was getting sicker for a while. and I had a business, and suddenly I had to do it all online, which
Oh,
also resonates with today. You
right.
know, suddenly I had to run my business sitting by his bedside. So that's when I figured out how to do an online business.
And this is what?
So I
Well,
kind of so that makes me having a little bit of a jump
right.
on people who
Yeah.
are scrambling to get their business online. Today, what I do is a couple of things, but one, I really do love to educate on health and wellness topics. I help people change habits gradually instead of throwing them into some major production of, like you got to change your health.
Right.
I don't go to someone and say, okay, you got to do all these things. You've got to do a whole list of things. That's too overwhelming.
Right.
So what I do is so I speak with them, talk with them, and find out what is something they themselves feel like they want to start improving on. Sometimes it's just getting off the diet soda.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they just are not having any energy, and sometimes I use the product partner USANA. It's a very helpful tool for me. Sometimes it's just making suggestions and talking with them, letting them know, and then being their accountability partner of doing it.
Well,
So that's one thing I can do. And I do that online, and I do general education online, because that's where, people will pick up and read about what they're interested in. I love that. And then the other thing I do is Living Well Connections. And Living Well Connections is a community. When my son was so very sick and I was doing business all online, I was looking for help for him, more of a holistic health approach.
Mhm.
And it was very difficult in those years to find anything. So I decided, when I did finally, you meet one person and that person's friend, or they know of someone.
Friends and friends of
I
friends.
did, I did get a good circle of a community of holistic practitioners. So as a give back, I want to share the community. And these are all local people. They all live, yay, it's all local, Raleigh and Apex and Cary and Durham and Chapel Hill, all local people who can help you. But their main thing they can do, they know their own business, but they don't get the word out
Right.
to know who they are and what they do. So I do this in two ways. One, and I always had one online portion, which was a private Facebook group
Mhm.
where anyone can go in, practitioners that are there, but also just anyone interested. But then I was doing luncheons where I would ask a practitioner to come speak, an educational luncheon. We used a locally owned restaurant, yay, and people would just come for lunch and get some education, and also have that sense of community. They love meeting each other. If you want to be surrounded by the people who are, if especially health, well, not just especially, but you want to be surrounded by the people who can encourage you.
Robin, Dr. Lavelle mentioned that in our very first interview, which was almost months ago now. She goes, what she really missed in today's practice is your healthcare provider spends 7 minutes with you.
Yeah.
And they're off and over. And then she was saying she wants to be able to spend more time. And then, as you are, along with you, build this community where even if you're not with your specific care provider, you're amongst the people that you can get the information and share your story
Right.
with. And that's the communal or tribal part of health, which just
It's a huge component
yes, ma'am.
of health. It really is. And what I was doing before COVID were these luncheons. I'd have parties at my house, really getting to know each other. But what I've had to do is I've switched. Now we're all online for a while. I mean, hopefully we'll get back to the parties, but right now I have a virtual lunch and learn. So I still have a practitioner come on. It obviously opens up on the positive mindset of this opens it up to, you don't have to just think about how many people can fit in that small back room of a restaurant.
Right.
I mean, you can have more people come, more people learn about who's available here locally, and also, or just learn about things that you might not consider. My next speaker is she's a hypnotherapist, but it has nothing to do with like the games and things you do on
Oh,
stage.
of course.
I mean, she's a therapist. She really is a therapist, but she used hypnosis in part of her therapy.
Right.
And it is also allowing them to do the work. She's going to be talking about that. She's going to be talking about how we can all relieve anxiety as we're going through this process of learning
Right.
how to do a lot of new things
Right. With the right attitude. And
with the right attitude.
Right. And when is that, Robin?
That is May 20th.
Okay.
At lunchtime. Actually, what we do is I open up, we do it on Zoom. I open it up at 11:30 because part of it is letting people chat.
Yeah.
Just letting people just introduce themselves and then just chat, just have a general chat. And then the presentation begins at noon and goes about half an hour, 40 minutes. And then there's another time for open questions.
Well, I've always enjoyed that chat time. When you join a group and you don't know everybody, but you have that this is a like-minded group. This
Right.
is to find peers. So I always like to get there early and find somebody, a lunch buddy, for lack of a better word, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. And as I learn more about Zoom, because we're all learning, as I learn more about it, I'm finding out you can do, I didn't know you could do breakout groups. Did you know that? I just learned
I've heard
that.
of it. I don't know how to do it.
I haven't done it yet, but I was in one this week and it's like, oh, wow. Because so then it's like when you just said buddy, I mean, it could be, especially if the group, especially if it's a large audience, pare it down a little bit.
Right.
I haven't figured out how to add that yet, but
well, we interviewed Stephen David Elliott with Rockstar Connect.
well, there's big groups.
Yeah, and they'll have 20, so the capacity is there. And I do like the breakout part. That is one of my favorite things about being in a group, is making friends while you're there. So that is an important part.
Yeah, that's an important part. So right now we're small enough because we started when I was doing the lunch and learns. It was in a small enough restaurant. We couldn't have a huge crowd.
Right. Well, now more than ever, people are concerned with their health. And our core message to all of our listeners is now's a great time to focus on your health. You have the time, you have the direction, and you have the local providers right here in your backyard ready to provide all the time and all the attention you need to change those habits.
Absolutely.
Robin, for me, one of the most important parts of changing habits is the accountability partner. I start with the grandest of intentions, but if I don't have somebody there to goose me or that I don't want to let down, can you speak a little bit more about how you're an accountability partner?
Well, one of the things I do, I provide information, but I'm available if I'm working with someone. I'm available anytime on text because when I go to sleep, I turn off my phone. They're not going to be calling me. They're not going to be texting me in the middle of the night. But I am available. I'm part of a group, an online group that has 3 functional physicians, a psychotherapist, and other health coaches. And then I'm the scientist token. And it's an educational support group too, but it's also good to find, just to connect, to be in the community where you're able to ask questions and get answers by people who really know what they're talking about.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, Dr. Bell is one, it's great to be able to ask her a question and have her answer.
And, she is, but we could go on. But this is about you, Robin.
Yeah. Well, see, part of my living well connection, people say, you're always talking about other people, because I do love being able to build that community of like-minded people and solid practitioners who I very much love holistic health, but my background in science, I have one big foot in science. And one of the things that I always say about it, combining the two, is if you think of ducks flying, they always fly in formation, that V formation. I say you need both. You need to have the medicine. I mean, if you break a leg, you're not going to just have someone do energy work on it. You're going to get it set.
Right.
But you need the mindset. You need all the pieces of it.
Right.
And if there's all the pieces of it, it lifts each other.
You need both the knowledge and the art, right?
Yes,
It's the merging of the two that creates the healing process. Yeah. Well, Robin, thank you for sharing your time. Before we go, how do our listeners get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out?
The best way is going to my website, reaching out through my website. It is robinthomas.biz, B-I-Z. That should be easy to remember. And I'm sure you're going to put the link down too.
It's running across the bottom.
Running across the bottom. Yes, yep. That's it.
Well,
that is the easiest way. People can email me from there, or my phone number's on there too.
Yes, it's a very nice site. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, Raleigh and Chapel Hill, I would like to remind everyone out there the power of local, and what's more local than your health. Take the time, because Robin Thomas, Dr. Lavelle, local health, all that and more is right in your backyard. Join us again soon. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.